dead simple. The plan is to try and build the greatest Spitfire flying today.
This is the inside story of a mammoth project to resurrect one of the nation's favourite planes.
I could say it's me and a few blokes in a shed, but no. It's a few blokes in an aircraft hangar, and I'm going to give them a bit of a hand.
Starting with a rusting wreck dug out of a French beach, the aim is to make the rarest Spitfire of all, a Mark I, using nothing but authentic World War II designs, materials and techniques.
This is going to be exactly as the Mark I was built 75 years ago, exactly.
The original plane was once flown by an RAF hero whose forgotten tale of daring do involves Dunkirk, crash landings, Colditz, and even the Queen.
Wow.
But only if an airworthy plane can be built will the original pilot's daughters finally witness the tribute their father deserves.
We're not talking models or anything, we're not playing at it. This is the real deal.
The Spitfire is arguably the most successful fighter design ever.
Come on then, keep up.
Produced in greater numbers than any other British combat plane, it was introduced in 1938 and wasn't taken out of frontline service until 1954.
It's not very big, is it? Eh? Heck.
Its V12 engine made it faster than anything else in the sky. It could do 350 miles per hour. Its elliptically shaped wings cut through the air to make it the best handling and easiest to fly plane the RAF had.
It's not half a look at, is it? Eh? Beautiful.
This was the aircraft that gave the country its finest hour. Victory in the Battle of Britain, when Germany was just 2 days away from invading.
I mean, it is a bold statement, isn't it? But if it weren't for them, we won't be here now, and I think the unit's right, isn't it? Well, we might be eating bratwurst.
And yet it was only 5 months earlier that the Spitfire, and the very plane Guy will attempt to remake, had made its debut in serious aerial combat. It was the Dunkirk evacuation, Operation Dynamo. By May 1940, Germany had successfully invaded most of Europe. It relentlessly attacked the remaining 300,000 Allied troops who had been cut off in northern France.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets.
19 Squadron, based at Duxford in Cambridgeshire, had been first to take delivery of the Spitfire. It was tasked with defending the troop evacuation.
We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air.
The commanding officer was a very special pilot.
Geoffrey Stevenson, yeah, legend. He was trying to provide air cover during the mass evacuation. As fighter pilots came, it was as good as they got. Yeah, he was the man.
Geoffrey Stevenson had flown in an early version of the Red Arrow's aerobatic display team before the war, with the famous ace Douglas Bader.
Well, we know the name Douglas Bader, the tin legs. Yeah, tin legs.
30-year-old Stevenson's squadron was amongst the first to reach the deadly skies above Dunkirk.
I'm sure if you was amongst that, like, you would have just said it was like the end of the world, Armageddon, wouldn't you? Black smoke everywhere. It was like raining planes. Planes had been shot down. The anti-aircraft fire. Bombs. Witnesses of the time say it was just carnage. It was carnage.
19 Squadron quickly proved the new Spitfire's worth, shooting down 4 Messerschmitts. But soon after, they were dramatically outnumbered. In the ensuing dogfight, 2 Spitfires were hit. One of them was Squadron Leader Stevenson's.
Took a bullet to the radiator. He had to force land the Spitfire on the beach we're at now. It'd have been a bit messy.
Drenched in boiling engine coolant and with a cockpit full of steam, Stevenson crash-landed into the beach. Somehow he survived. Refusing to give himself over to the Germans, he went on the run.
We shall never surrender.
Stevenson's plane, designation N3200, became a toy for the Germans.
Yeah, it was a bit of a trophy to the Germans. I'd have a few choice words for them boys. Who had the last laugh, eh?
Within a fortnight, this prized British icon, flown by a national hero, had disappeared into the sand, and it stayed there, left to rot. But in 1986, the remains were unearthed, and eventually they came into the possession of two anonymous collectors obsessed by originality. They were determined to produce a plane that was precisely as Jeffrey Stevenson would have flown it during the war, so it could be displayed in air shows around the country. They sent the wreckage home to the old Duxford base Stevenson first flew it from. Today it houses a museum and the best historic aviation engineers in the world.
We take pride in what we do, and they're put together properly with care and attention. Even the bits you can't see that are buried deep within the wing are done correctly.
It's a bit like restoring fine artwork, I suppose. You know, it's totally, completely handmade.
The ultimate. You can get to work for a Formula 1 team, but I'm not bothered. Are you bothered? I'm not really bothered. Go on, give me another pinnacle. NASA. Working with Americans, I won't get on with Americans. Who else? Give me another job. What else would be like? CERN. Oh, CERN, Large Hadron Collider. Yeah, but to be honest, I don't think I'm clever enough for that. Getting to work on a Spitfire with a Rolls Royce in it, that's the ultimate. You have made it, that's it.
As well as following in the footsteps of the original workforce who built the Spitfire, using their exact same techniques.
Look at that. Like a glove. Like a glove.
Guy will learn about the power of the Spitfire's guns.
I'm not much of a runner, to be honest.
The speed of the ground crew.
Right, where do you want me?
Learn from the people that built and flew the Spitfire originally.
It's amazing what you can do when the chips are down. It's amazing.
I don't know what we've done without them. Do you?
Experience the flight of his life, which takes a surprising twist.
This is going to be a bit different, Guy.
And uncover the extraordinary tale of the original pilot, Jeffrey Stevenson.
I feel very honoured to work on. I think that's just... It's a bit much. I'm a bit of a dinner.
The 2-year project begins in spring 2012. Guy's first day on the job begins with the wrecked remains of Stevenson's plane.
I would be the sort of person that'd have someone like that in my front room because it tells a story, doesn't it? But you'd say, what is the point in keeping this? But no. It's just good for useful bits of information. How pipes was routed, how bits of wiring was routed. You know, like, look in here, look at all that in there. You see? Dig about and you can find name tags on stuff. Look, here. Lamp port, look, on the wiring. There's just loads of... You know, don't fart near it, it'll drop to bits. Now, the first job we're going to do, we're going to put these oil unions down there, right? But these here, they didn't know, they could have been either riveted in or bolted in, but as you can see here, these are bolted in. So ours will be bolted in as it should be.
For the finished plane to be truly authentic, it will need a combination of refurbished parts and new sections built to original specifications.
We were able to extract a few bits out of it, but as for the actual airframe itself, a new one was required. And the company on the Isle of Wight's got the ability to make that from scratch. But they're working from original drawings, just like we do here.
Go on, and what sort of money?
We're looking at about 200 to 250,000.
You can see it, okay.
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah. That includes the tail unit as well.
Oh, right. 250, bloody hell. Bloody hell.
Guy, like the rest of the team, will have to refer to the 75-year-old plans retrieved from an RAF museum.
This is the old system diagram here.
Are these...
these are original drawings. This shows the two unions which I've got here.
Yeah.
The unions are joints which connect pipes taking oil from the engine to the oil cooler.
First job, yeah. Working on a Spitfire.
The first assembly jobs are relatively straightforward, but still vital.
I'm making a bloody pig's ear of this.
If these joints aren't fitted securely, they'll leak. And if they leak, the engine could seize in mid-air.
As simple as any bit may seem to fit, every bit is critical in the end. If one bit fails, then another bit may fail, and then you have trouble.
And what do you reckon to the blokes that had been building them back then?
They seem to have a different skill set to what we have now. You know, we have difficulty in replicating them today.
Is that right?
Nearly half the workforce was female. Peggy Sugden started work at a Wiltshire Spitfire factory in 1942.
We were pretty good at it, yeah, I'm very proud of myself actually. You could do it almost blindfold really. We were that quick and so easy really. We had to work 8 till 8, Monday to Friday, 8 till 5 Saturdays, and 8 to 4 Sundays. And we just had the 1 week off in July, just 1 week. That didn't bother me, I loved it. I never minded going to work.
Back in early 40s, you're going to work knowing that the Germans want to come over and bomb you. Not easy. It's a bit of pressure, isn't it? I don't think you just wouldn't let that get to you, would you? You'd be very British about it, and you just get on with it. Keep calm and carry on, wouldn't you? You'd have to be, wouldn't you? Very British.
I knew we might be bombed, but it didn't seem to bother me at all. I just loved it. I loved every bit of it. I loved the camaraderie, I loved it. It was beautiful.
As part of the latest generation to work on a Spitfire, Guy clearly has a lot to live up to.
Of course I'm up to the job. Hey? Alright, I'm willing to learn. I'm not going in there, I'm not going in there just trying, of course I can do it. I don't know, I'm holding my hands up and saying, look boys, I've never worked on a plane before, and I've definitely never worked on a Spitfire before. You need to, point us in the right direction. But I'll give it my all, I'll give it my best shot. No question. Definitely, of course I can do it.
Guy's fitted his first 2 parts. But if this is truly to be the greatest Spitfire ever made, it still needs 250,000 rivets. A rebuilt Rolls-Royce engine, fresh paint, new wings, real guns and a propeller worth 6 figures before finding out if the whole thing is good enough to fly. Guy Martin is helping to build the nation's favourite plane, a Mark I Spitfire. This particular aircraft, N3200, was shot down over Dunkirk in 1940, and now the wreckage is being used as the basis for the most authentic Spitfire to be built since World War II.
We'll handle it.
It won't be easy, as is clear on a recent restoration. The Spitfire was a complex, state-of-the-art aircraft.
Yeah, the most sophisticated fighter the RAF had. Just look in here. Look at the way the buttons finished off. You see? I don't know press it. Do you know I'm alright to press it? No, I best not press it. I don't want any bodies.
In the mid-1930s, the aggressive foreign policy of Hitler's Germany rung alarm bells in Britain. A rearmament program saw the tender for a new fighter plane won by Reginald Mitchell from Stoke-on-Trent, an aeronautical engineer with no formal training. In 1931, his seaplane had reached a record-breaking 407.5 miles per hour. That design was adapted into the Spitfire. The first plane rolled out of a Southampton factory in 1938.
It's the fastest single-seater fighter in the world.
Every young pilot who took the helm immediately fell in love.
I was 18. Now, all they said was, there's a Spitfire, go and fly it. If you break it, there'll be bloody hell to pay. Thank you. And I remember vividly walking out and seeing this lithe-looking thoroughbred creature sitting there. I thought, my goodness, am I in charge of that lethal-looking thing? I got in it, they showed me how to start it, and then I opened the throttle, and the acceleration was nothing like I'd ever known, and she seemed to hurl herself into the air with me hanging on to it. It was a thing apart, and it seemed to flow about the sky. It was responsive, it was very light on the controls, and it was a revelation. I remember thinking, well, this is lovely. I was mucking about around the clouds, and I've got to get this thing back on the ground, which is quite an important part of any trip, you see. And we arrived on the ground. Quite simply, the aeroplane flew me.
Squadron leader Geoffrey Stevenson, English gent and distinguished pilot, was in charge of N3200 when it was shot down. His diaries reveal what happened after he crashed during the Dunkirk evacuation.
They've given me a copy. I wouldn't trust me with the original either. Yeah, some interesting reading. And there's one bit here that reads, I had force landed on the beach south of Calais. Was not a time for emotion, but rather cool planning. Nothing of the sort occurred.
According to the diaries, Stevenson evaded capture for 11 days, walking 110 miles through occupied France to Brussels. He sought refuge at the US Embassy, but was turned away because the Americans were not yet part of the war.
Yeah, well, he's a bit snooker now, isn't he? He's on the street, like German occupied really at that stage, wasn't it? If he'd have got captured and they said, well, you're obviously a spy, kaboom, blown his brains out, no questions asked.
Stevenson had no alternative but to turn himself in and become a prisoner of war. By May 1940, Germany had successfully invaded most of Europe, but Hitler was furious that Britain had rejected his offer of peace. The British Navy and Air Force posed a huge threat, so he ordered them to be destroyed. The plan was first to gain aerial superiority over the Channel before landing his infantry by sea. The Battle of Britain was about to begin, and the RAF needed more planes. Fast. To help increase production, a new factory at Castle Bromwich in Birmingham started producing Spitfires in May 1940. Today it's used by the Jaguar Car Company, with works of art reminding the locals of the area's history.
I'm not into modern art, and that's what we're calling that, isn't it? Modern art. But I can appreciate that no one's forgotten, and I think that's right. And then we've got here is the nose cone, and some knob has gone and graffitied it. Show a bit of respect. Do you know about these here?
Yeah.
Go on, whatever.
That is the Spitfire wing.
Is it? Fair play, mate. What do you think to it all?
What do I think to it all?
Yeah.
Well, for starters, it's a bit of history, isn't it, really?
Right.
This place is like out World War II and all that, don't it? Do you know what I mean?
Spot on, mate.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you know all about that. I think that's great.
No,
Spot on,
cool.
mate.
The factory itself is also one big monument.
Go on, what's your saying? We've seen the first bit. You see, most of Britain's Spitfires are made here from 39 to 45.
The factory was a colossal undertaking, the size of 80 football pitches. In today's prices, it cost the government nearly £400 million. Its huge size made it an obvious target for German bombers, so the whole building was covered in camouflage paint.
There is a bit of camouflage left, you see up there? But it didn't stop them, they still dropped over 200 bombs.
To begin with, production at the factory was a fiasco, thanks to the very worst examples of British industrial unrest.
We had too many old boys stuck in their old ways, they knew best, saying that they're going to build 60 Spitfires a week. All these old boys, oh yeah, we'll do 60 Spitfires a week. Anyway, April 1940 had come and they hadn't turned out one, not one.
There were more than 3,000 different blueprints for a Spitfire, and the foremen, recruited from car maker Morris and used to simpler manufacturing, wanted to ignore them.
You still get it now, don't you? I've been doing it this way for 50 years, that's the way it'll be done. That's the way it'll be done. Old boys stuck in the way, we need some fresh blood in there. The whip needed to be cracked, and it was.
Lord Beaverbrook, generally regarded as the unpleasant and unreasonable proprietor of the Daily Express, was in charge of the Ministry of Aircraft Production. He was as passionate about Spitfire production numbers as he was about his newspaper's circulation. Within a year, he'd kicked Castle Bromwich into life with new management, turning it into Europe's most efficient factory.
The north side, all the wings were done over there. Over there, engines and the fuselage, and here is where all the assembly took place. 85 were being turned out a week, and that's some going there. And all the workers said all they did is work and sleep, nothing else. Fair play. Proper.
At its peak, more than 14,000 people worked at Castle Bromwich. It was one of the first places to award equal pay to men and women.
I don't know what we got here. I think this will be the fuel tank assembly. You see there, 40% of the workforce was women.
We're about 18, 19. Most of them, a lot of them were girls I'd gone to school with.
Yeah, they are making fuel tanks. Yeah, flat out making fuel tanks, and their speciality was riveting.
We had to buy our own tools, by the way. Chisels and screwdrivers and everything we had to provide ourselves. So you needed a chisel in case your rivets weren't flat, you know, you would have to chisel them off, which I didn't do very often. I'd only got them right.
And look here, there's a lass here riveting. No pressure out, but that's the Prime Minister. That's Winston Churchill looking over her. No pressure, love, no pressure. It
was quite nice because I was earning loads of money. Much more than I got as an apprentice at hairdressing.
By heck.
Riveting a fuel tank is Guy's next job back at Duxford. The team are 8 months into the N3200 project.
These early Mark 1s, the fuel tank doesn't have a crash or bulletproof covering like the later versions, so it is even more important for it to be leak-proof.
And that needs precision riveting. And like in Castle Bromwich, Guy will have to do this by hand, rather than rely on a modern-day robot.
If you're putting a rivet in a place of stress, like on the bottom of a fuel tank, you have to use these hardened rivets, but you can't rivet a hardened rivet up. So what you have to do, you have to heat it up to 485 degrees, and that then makes the rivet more malleable. You know, you can rivet it up then.
The rivets, made of the same steel alloy as 75 years ago, are then frozen to preserve that malleable state. There are just 2 hours to use them before they harden. Nick Dean is in charge.
What's the plan then now? We put some in?
Yeah.
Where do you want me?
Right, so what we'll do, start from the middle and basically work outwards. Just bring it down gently.
All right, yeah.
A rivet is a quick way of permanently joining 2 pieces of metal together.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
The shaft is pushed through a hole and has its end flattened by a rivet squeezer, exerting a ton of force to fix it in place.
This tank here is 37 gallons. And the tank that sits above it is 48 gallons. So what's that, 85 gallons altogether. When she was up in the air, she'd be using a gallon a minute. I mean, that is thirsty, isn't it? A gallon a minute. Yeah, that is some going. You could not tip it away faster, could you? Really? Could you? Well, if you're licking on, you've got enough fuel for an hour's worth of flying. So that's only half an hour there, half an hour back. Any more than an hour, and we're going to be in bother. Yeah. I'll get these rivets. Nick's been on this 5 weeks. I don't know if we're knackering it up. My bloody riveting. It's not a bloody laughing matter, is it? 5 weeks gone into this.
It's finished, exactly as it would have been done originally.
The job's worth doing. It's worth doing well. Yeah, fair play.
The Battle of Britain began on July the 10th, 1940. It was the first campaign to be fought entirely in the air and became the Spitfire's most celebrated moment in history. Hitler's plan was first to attack naval convoys in the Channel, then Britain's airfields, and then the aircraft factories, and finally to order indiscriminate bombing of the towns and cities. An RAF pilot might be sent up 5 times a day to fend off the relentless onslaught of the Luftwaffe, who were making up to 1,800 sorties in a 24-hour period. It was exhausting work for the pilots, who were as young as 19, but they readily admitted the real heroes were the mechanics and ground crew who quickly repaired, refueled, and rearmed their planes.
the officers were bringing the mechanics food, eh? How often would you get that happening? I don't know, everyone sees the mechanics, don't they? Oh, he's only a fitter, only a mechanic, only a fitter. But then you've got the officers bringing the mechanics food, and so obviously the officers appreciated, not just appreciated, they knew that without the mechanics, that was it. Nothing happened.
Air superiority depended on speed, and the mechanics had a trick up their sleeve to eke out every last mile per hour.
He said the servicing I did was 100%. The riggers and I were always polishing because we were told the pilots could get an extra 4 mile an hour that way. These lads are polishing because they think it'll get another 4 mile an hour out of the plane. Hey, that's pride in your work, is that, ain't it? We'll see what else we can find. We've got a bit of reading to do.
The Spitfire had enough fuel for around an hour's flight and enough bullets for 14 seconds of firing. The ground crews took great pride in how quickly they could perform a pit stop to refuel and rearm, even though they were targets for bombing themselves. Guy persuades some of his Duxford colleagues to see if they're a match.
They say a team of 4 blokes could rearm a Spitfire, was it 2,400 rounds in 3.5 minutes?
Yeah.
Right, so get out of these boxes,
yeah.
Scarper over there, how you fixed?
We'll give it a go.
Right, so we're going for it.
Yeah.
I'll just follow what you boys do. I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay. So, are we ready? Oh, we're starting now. We're starting to start watch now.
Go!
I'm not much of a runner.
Don't overtake me.
Right, where do you want me?
Carrying a carrot, he's quicker than me.
Where do you want me?
First of all, you whip off that long panel.
Yeah.
Come on, Guy!
He's trying his best.
I missed the screwdriver and scratched the pen. These boys will never forgive me.
Undo this one. Okay.
All right.
Put that down there. Pull that back. Hold the one.
That's the used bullet, so they'll have just been spent on a lot of Germans.
Okay.
All right.
2 minutes.
With 2 of the 3.5 minutes gone, they're only just threading the first ribbon to help guide the belt of bullets into the gun.
Must have been difficult in those times to do what they were doing, quick turnarounds and looking up at the skies thinking when are they coming over to drop bombs on you, or brave people. Shut the lid. Like that. Got feedback.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
That's 3 minutes.
This is just putting the bullets in because you'd have another team cleaning all the breeches and the barrels as well.
Yeah.
There'll be other people checking radios. Another one will be walking around to see if there's any damage on the aircraft.
10,
Unclip it.
9, 8,
Okay.
7, 6, 5, 4,
Pull it all through.
Pull through, yeah.
2, 1. Time's up.
Oh, we'll just carry on then.
We're nowhere near done, but then we'll carry on.
That's it. Okay. Gun cocked.
Is that us?
Yeah, that's us. We'll panel up now.
So that's taken us, what, we've done 2 boxes in what, thick end of 5 minutes, I suppose. And those boys were doing 8 boxes in 3.5 minutes.
They were.
That's impressive, but as impressive as that is, if that was your job, you would make sure you was the quickest in the world, wouldn't you? That's,
it's all about getting them back up in the air, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's impressive, it's impressive. It is impressive. Let me and my dad go look round, I got that.
It's time to get back to work.
They changed 2 engines one year.
The next stage of the project will be crucial in trying to make N3200 the greatest flying Spitfire. Building the wings that give the plane its outstanding advantage in combat. Guy Martin is helping out on a 2-year project to remake one of the rarest Spitfires of all, a Mark I.
As you can see, we've got a lot of work to do.
It was salvaged from a Dunkirk beach after crash landing in 1940.
And that was when it was dug out in 1986.
The anonymous owner has insisted everything is done as authentically as possible, using original techniques.
No, that's not right. It's not perfect. It needs to be a bit tighter. Starting again. It's not right. I'm rushing it. Doesn't matter which panel you lift up or where you look, it's just attention to detail is absolutely perfect in every single way.
The project is 10 months old and the fuselage is ready to be painted. John Loweth has 20 years' experience and does the entire process freehand, as it was done originally. The only difference is that these days there's no lead in the paint.
To do the 4 coats of top coat, it will take about an hour.
Early Spitfires fought mostly over England's fields during the Battle of Britain, so were painted brown and green. Later, as the fight was taken to the enemy across the Channel, they were painted grey and green to better blend into the sea.
I've done probably about 10 aircraft. This one I'm quite pleased with. I do like this one.
The plane is now ready for its most intricate parts, which will test Guy's engineering ability to the limit. The wings.
This is Spike, he's the wing team
All right,
leader.
Spike. Pleased to meet you, mate. How's it going? All right, mate. Hey. All right, what's the plan?
Right, now, there we go, 1936 drawing. This is basically what we call a general assembled drawing.
Yeah.
Building a wing begins with the internal framework of supports called ribs. Each rib is handmade and must be strong enough to withstand the stresses of a Spitfire's 400-mile-per-hour dive.
We're making
What's it, number 5?
Rib 5, centre portion.
Yes.
You're forming that boom, which is called a top boom.
Yeah.
They start on the shrinker.
In you go, that's it.
The Spitfire's responsive handling relied on the precise curves of its wings, and here the bends of its frame are made by pulling the metal fractionally inwards.
That's it, and just move it along every ½ inch or so. By doing that, that's gently curving that material.
Without putting it under any stress?
Without putting it under any stress. That's it.
You see? Right, very subtle then. Very, very subtle. Bloody hell.
When they put the beam on the layout board,
Up that up there, like so.
Spike's experienced eye spots a problem.
Well, as I can see from
Yours
this,
fitted a treat.
from here
Yeah.
to there, that's slightly overcurved.
Right, so it wants a bit taken out.
Okay, so that one a bit taking out now.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's just undoing everything that was done over there.
You can't. That's what you can't teach someone that, can you? Hey, just like it's how many years you did that? This
30 years
30
I've
years,
been
so.
in the game. Yeah.
So the same on the bottom.
Yeah, just same on the bottom. If you don't get it right, it don't fly. Or even worse still, wings could fall off or break up. There's no substituting for the correct fasteners and procedures. You do it right or you don't do it at all. Basically, that's a goer.
The first part is complete, but each rib can contain up to 20 different parts.
To get to that there, take a week, right? But in a whole Spitfire, there's 124 of them. Hey, it takes a week to make one. Hey, you can see we're going to be here a day or two, can't you? Hey, what do you reckon, Spy? What's next?
One wing is made up of 3,000 different parts, and each must marry up perfectly to the next. Once the ribs have been completed, the largest parts can be fitted.
Right, where do you want me?
The exterior skins. 250 pins are screwed in so the wing can be fine-tuned before it's permanently riveted.
So yeah, the whole idea is getting this edge here to line up perfectly. You see it? Up there, that's spot on there, isn't it? But up here, we've got a bit of a gap, and then it closes up back up there. It's taken off 5 times yesterday. It's been on and off 5 times today, and probably another 5 more times, just to get it perfect. It's all perfect. It has to be perfect. No ifs, buts, or maybe. It's perfect.
Sometimes it can take forever. It's just been a bit of a perfectionist on the side, I think, where you're just not happy until it is exactly right. You know, you need that little bit of mentality, I think.
The repetition of the job is probably one of the hardest parts of it. So it's very laborious, but it's got to be done right.
The work continues.
Back off again. Back off again.
Unpinning, shaving, shaping, refitting, unpinning, shaving, and shaping again.
A bit nervous.
In 1940, it took just days to make a wing. Not today.
A year per wing. A year per wing. So you don't get fed up with it?
Not really.
No?
No.
You?
No.
No? Good lads.
It's finally perfect.
Work of art.
The section is then attached to the rest of the wing framework, it will take another 6 months' effort to complete. It was during the 3.5-month-long Battle of Britain where that sleek wing design helped make the Spitfire so effective.
The Germans have lost one plane every 42 minutes. How's that, Mr. Goebbels?
The plane was incredibly responsive, helping it to outmaneuver German fighters more easily than its Battle of Britain brother, the Hurricane.
The Hurricane wasn't bad, but it was more like the cart horse and the racehorse, if you know. The Spitfire was the one you wanted. It looked better. It was a very beautiful aeroplane. It was better at altitude than the Hurricane, and it performed better. There's no doubt about that. It did perform better. I've flown both.
Although the Hurricane shot down more planes overall, its job was to target the slower German bombers, and that was only possible because the Spitfire had first gunned down the more difficult-to-hit German fighter escorts. But the real key to success was the chain of radar stations along the south and east coasts, which meant the RAF knew exactly where the Luftwaffe were going to be. They could set a course to intercept, wait at altitude for the German planes to appear, then dive to shoot them down. To experience what those British fighter aces went through, Guy is about to take a once-in-a-lifetime flight.
I feel rather official, and to be honest, the right lucky bugger. I'm having a go in a Spitfire. I know Spitfires are only single-seaters, but they did late 40s as training planes. There was a lot of twin-seaters made, and that's what I'm having a go in. A converted Mark 9. I'll get you too. Do you reckon? Do I look like I know what I'm doing? I'm only the passenger. We'll go have a word with Cliff, because Cliff knows what he's doing. Right, Cliff. How's it going, mate? We're off. You're the man. You know what you're doing.
Retired Air Marshal Cliff Spink has flown Spitfires for 21 years and straps Guy into his parachute.
I'm sort of a little bit nervous, but I'm more excited.
Clipper up. Okay, we're starting. Contact. Right, let's rock and roll then.
Brilliant.
So we ease the power up.
Yeah.
Feed in a bit of flight rudder. But what do you think, guys?
Absolutely brilliant.
We're doing just over 200 miles an hour. Right. Put your hand on the control column. Yes. Okay. You have control. Okay, so as the nose comes up, the seat is forward. That's it. I'm doubling up sensitivity. The left wing goes down to the right. That's it. And by the way, look forward, and you'll see my hands up here. I can see it, yeah. You're flying a Spitfire. That's jolly good, well done. Okay, I'll take you back, I have control. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Meanwhile, completely unbeknownst to Guy, a Messerschmitt prepares to take off and turn this pleasure flight into a dogfight.
Look over your right shoulder. Yeah. Because we might be about to get a surprise.
Whoa, what you got there?
You're about to see what it was like to be on the wrong end of a Messerschmitt.
Guy Martin is about to get a pilot's eye view of a Battle of Britain dogfight between a Spitfire and a Messerschmitt 109, the plane tasked with escorting German bombers over the south coast of England.
You're getting nervous now, and you're thinking, I know the bad guys are around. See that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Well, that's rolling into your 6 o'clock. Very difficult to see him, isn't it?
Now, what would you be doing now in the fight situation?
Well, if you didn't see him, and you weren't moving your wings about, you're about to get shot down.
What do? You dive, do you...
Yeah, I'll show you that. Just a second. Alright, do that.
Never stay still. If you stayed still, straight and level, for more than about 10 seconds, you were killed. I realised that if I could see my antagonist, I felt I could outfly him in a Spitfire.
As you can see it from the other side now.
Yeah.
It's us bouncing the 109. Right, now we really are in a fail-safe. Really.
The art of dogfighting is to fly faster and turn tighter than your opponent, so you can maneuver them into your sights.
You did this before, haven't you?
Compared to the 109, early Spitfires had less ammunition, weren't as fast and couldn't climb as quickly. But they had two crucial advantages. They were less tiring to fly and had much better high-speed maneuverability.
If you got in a dogfight, flying manual went out of the window. Be brutal with it, chuck it around, yeah. And a Spitfire would respond.
Yeah, like that.
In extreme maneuvers, it was possible to pull 6G, enough force to ripple the metal on the wings and severely affect the pilot.
Pulling out of a dive, you can hardly lift your hand from the stick, and you feel your eyes going and you can black out. There was one time when I was right behind a 109 and it's you or him, and you'd rather it was him. I don't know anybody who felt that they had killed somebody. They'd shot down an aeroplane, not a pilot.
I'm now coming up to about 400 yards. Now that is slow. About now I'm going banner. And hopefully I'll hit him. It's very noticeable when you're flying with people who have got an empathy with machines. They do get very quickly into the sense of the aeroplane. I mean, I could have given that to somebody else and they would have been all over the sky. So well done you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. I'm honoured that you let me fly. I'm honoured.
That was really good. And you can say you've flown a Spitfire.
Yeah, that's not a lie. I've flown a Spitfire. It's not a lie.
The mission to create the most authentic Spitfire since the war has reached a landmark stage. It's time to fit the aeroplane's heart. The 27-litre V12 engine.
The engine it had in it is the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the legendary engine. And I'm that into him, I bought my own Merlin. And I've got a Merlin, it's going in my front room and it runs.
The engine for N3200 runs as good as new.
The original core engine was sent down to a company in Gloucestershire where it was completely stripped, every part is measured, made sure it's within tolerance, and then it will hopefully give 250 hours of service before it needs dismantling again.
But before the engine is fitted, its frame must be attached to the bulkhead.
So how many hours in making this frame?
Probably about 400.
400 hours. Has that been on that?
The engine weighs more than half a ton, so the 4 bolts which support the frame must fit securely.
I was an aircraft fitter, and I always remember these tapered engine bolts. They used to be bolts about that long, and it was turned on a taper and then ground, radial ground. It kept me rather busy.
To keep the bolts in place, a hole is drilled in the head to accept a locking pin. It's very easy to snap such a thin drill bit, and the consequences are costly.
If you break the drill off or drill off line, then these are a special bolt which have to be specially made in the machine shop, so they've got quite a long lead time. About 3 months.
Enough.
So if we mess that up, we won't be able to put the engine in.
We used to get G'd up sometimes. They'd be short of a certain item, and then they used to come down and mark it up on the board. Red hot they used to put on the part which was missing. I think it was head down, get on with it. I enjoyed it. and I'd do it all over again.
Your turn.
If Guy snaps the bit, the project will grind to a halt. But his steady hand does the job.
Bam.
And the bolt is locked in place with a split pin so it can't come undone. The 1,000 horsepower Merlin 3, the same type of engine that was originally fitted to N3200, is hoisted into place. Guy's Spitfire is one step closer to returning to the sky.
Getting excited. You're not beating that, are you? I could fit as many Scania clutches, I could fit as many Volvo turbos as I like, and nothing's going to beat that. But the Merlin in a Spitfire. He's more excited. Are you excited?
I'm always excited, putting an engine in.
He's always excited.
I'm quite proud of the engineering side of it. I think everybody was proud of it. Everybody, even the old ladies in the street, the Spitfire, all we had. It was an iconic plane, absolutely iconic. I'm very proud of those bit.
The decisive Battle of Britain offensive came on September the 15th, 1940. Germany launched 2 huge waves and Britain scrambled every fighter it had. The RAF shot down 60 planes and lost 26 of their own. Germany was due to invade just 2 days later, but with the RAF clearly still at full strength, the invasion of Britain was called off. The Spitfire had been instrumental in inflicting Hitler's first defeat, the first turning point in World War II. But it wasn't the last time the Spitfire played a crucial strategic role. Constantly updated to become more powerful and better armed, its versatility saw it serve in the Mediterranean, Burma, and the Pacific. In 1944, it provided an overwhelming force when the Allies took the fight to Hitler on D-Day, and was the first plane to touch down in liberated France before soon taking off to press home the attack. But star pilot Geoffrey Stevenson was missing out. After crash-landing N3200 at Dunkirk, his letters home tell of what happened to him as a prisoner of war, including this Nazi dossier revealing he spent 3 weeks in solitary confinement.
So wherever they put him, he'd escape. Then he'd get captured and they'd put him in another place and he'd escape. So then the Germans got hold of him the last time and says, right, Geoffrey Stevenson, we've had enough of you, mates. You're off to Colditz. And we've heard of Colditz, haven't you? You're not getting out of there in a hurry. And who did he meet in Colditz? Douglas Bader, his old mate. And that's when they started concocting this fancy glider in the loft of Colditz, planning this dramatic escape. Which never happened. It never happened, but it's a British spirit, isn't it?
Even when imprisoned, he was a thorn in the Nazi side. Stevenson's old plane is 3/4 of the way through its painstakingly accurate rebuild.
Well, she's checking shape, wing skins are on, she's had a lick of paint. She's looking like an aeroplane.
Even the oil unions, the very first parts Guy ever fitted, have been plumbed in. Today she's ready to have her wings bolted on, with 7 pins measured to 1/1000th of an inch.
Each wing, they have 3 at the top and 4 at the bottom. Just a normal bolt, you can see you've got the thread there, that's the main shank, and that's like the screw head there to hold it in place. But the only problem is that the fit is absolutely critical. The diameter we're going for is 937.5 thou. You see that? There's 1,000 thous in an inch. A thou is about the thickness of a human hair. This is the bolt, and what we've got here is 945.4 of a thou. So it's about 8 hairs we've got to take off that. So yeah, 8 thou. Not 9 thou, not 8.5 thou, 8 thou. We'll get cracking. We'll go see the man. See how to steer the machine.
Locate that into there.
Paul Wilson is in charge of the cylindrical grinder, similar to the machine that would have been used for this job originally. It takes an hour to try and carefully shave off the necessary 8 widths of a hair.
That'll be your last cut.
Guy's workmanship impresses Mo, the boss.
His standards are perfect. You could give him a job tomorrow without a worry. And you could quite happily let him do most things on the aeroplane. You know, he's got the feel for it.
But despite the care and attention, the pin is too tight to fit.
That's because you've been holding it in your hand for the last 10 minutes.
I know. We were stood there talking about, what was we talking about? Price of fish. And I've had that in my hands all the time. You feel that? Feel how warm that is?
It's really warm.
Feel how warm that is?
Stone cold.
Yeah. Obviously it's been warm, it's going to expand. But the heat of my hands has made it expand enough not to go in the hole.
That tells me that's 3 tenths oversized from what we made it on the machine. So the heat with him holding it in his hand for the last 15 minutes has grown that by 3 tenths. After half an hour, that'll cool down enough. That'll be perfect.
Once cooled, Guy tries the pin again. It fits, and Mo is brought over to inspect.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah.
13 more to go.
Yeah.
Each wing weighs the same as 2 men.
Okay, go for another push in. That's it.
Look at that. Like a glove. Like a glove.
Guy is left to make the final fixings. The Spitfire may have invoked love and affection from all who saw it, but it existed for one sole deadly purpose. It was a mobile gun platform. In the early days, it was fitted with 4 Browning machine guns in each wing. But the relatively small .303 rounds soon struggled to penetrate the ever-improving armor of enemy aircraft. So later the guns were uprated to a larger 50 caliber bullet. Guy wants to witness the destructive power of these machine guns for himself, and is meeting up with old friend Dave Main, an historic armourer.
Now, mates.
Right, how's it going?
All right, for you.
Yeah.
Go on, what we got here?
Right, 50 caliber machine gun, developed in 1921. This is now still in service, and so it's got a life of 92 years. And this is how we load our rounds.
This very gun was once used in a Spitfire and has now been adapted to use a hand trigger.
So what you do is you get in behind your target area and then line it up and then obviously fire it. And then keep your fingers on the trigger. Bang, 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 bang. Okay. You'll go.
The tanks would hold roughly 350 rounds of ammunition, which would last firing continuously of about 14 seconds. That's all they would get. Some of the dogfights were perhaps from 25,000 feet down to 5,000 feet. And they'd just see briefly an enemy aircraft flash by or down in front of them, and they just give it a quick burst. That was it. That was about 10 or 15 rounds of ammunition gone in a fraction of a second. I never thought about anyone being at the end of it. Never passed our minds. It was all part of the job.
To see how much damage such a short amount of firing time can do, Guy needs a target.
I'm finding this sacrilege, to be honest. But we need something to simulate enemy aircraft. We found a scrap car. Just happens that it's a BMW. Hey, they made engines for the Luftwaffe. Just a coincidence, just a coincidence. It pains me. It's got good tyres on it, it's got parking sensors. The paintwork's not bad. But it's German, we're going to get her own back. She's having it. She's having it.
Guy Martin is about to find out what damage a Spitfire machine gun could do.
Okay, good. Ready?
Ready?
Yep.
Is she having some more?
Yep.
Put the windows through.
Okay. You want to traverse, one click. Yep. Come down slightly now.
Okay.
Yep.
The Browning fires around 6 bullets a second. In the heat of battle, new pilots would often hold the trigger open as soon as they saw the enemy, wasting all their bullets in one go.
Yeah, you get the young ones, you just go in there, shoot your load. Get it all over and done with. You know, you've only got 10 seconds, you get it all over and done with straight away. But then if you was an experienced pilot, they knew to get as near as you could and only shoot 2-second blast, just go in there, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, 1 2-second burst.
I meant business there, she was having it.
Certainly was.
Again?
And again.
Firing from a static position at a static target is one thing. Firing from a moving platform at a moving target is far harder.
They're coming towards you at 300 miles an hour. You're doing 300 miles. That's 600 miles an hour. And it happened very, very quickly. It was just a boom, and that was it. You were through.
With 100 rounds fired, Guy inspects the damage.
Well, it doesn't look absolute carnage, does it? It was all right, the bullet going through, but when that bullet's gone through your Messerschmitt or it's gone through your Heinkel, you know, it takes bits with it, and those bits then become like another bullet, and they just create carnage. Now, look here. Look, as that bullet's come through, it's picked up the shrapnel and it's just gone everywhere. Look, it's ripped the bloody radio out. It's ripped the bloody radio out. And look at it, I was just looking at the bonnet. It's crackers. Come and have a look here. Come and have a look. Come and have a look. It's ripped half the engine out. Hey? And that's what pilots were trained to do. You know, you go for the pilot, go for the engine. They were the two things that was going to stop the plane the quickest. But then just kind of look round the other side, it's just mad. I mean, look there, we've nearly turned it into a convertible. Hey? And then you look at that door. Look at that. That sort of sums it up, doesn't it? As beautiful as the Spitfire was, and we can call it beautiful, can't we? Really, it was just a killing machine. It was
Guy returns to Duxford to fit the final part to N3200. A brand new propeller has been made by a company in Gloucestershire. A problem here could prove costlier than any other part of the project.
Go on, it's expensive then?
It is, yeah, it's about £150,000 worth. And heavy too, around about 200 kilos. Okay. Another one. Okay. Bit more. Go up.
Up.
Go down. Okay.
Have you ever heard of a prop dropping off while in flight?
I have when they've been testing. If we get it on, it won't come off, but if we tear the seal, it will just leak oil and spray all the screen and everything.
Don't need that on a maiden voyage. No.
It's not ideal.
There's no good rushing at this time.
When positioned, the prop head has to be fastened to the shaft. Making sure it's tight enough requires some extra leverage.
If I'm hung on the end of that, you know it's tight. You know it's tight. FT we call it. Yeah, she's tight.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I worked at about 6 foot, just hanging on it. Then I'll hit it with a hammer. Okay. That's very tight now.
Spot on. So we're getting there, Mel.
Yep, that's good.
Once the engine covers are back on, the aeroplane will be complete. N3200 will be ready to be flown for the first time since Jeffrey Stevenson crash-landed in her. In 1945, the Americans liberated Colditz, and Jeffrey Stevenson was released. The war was over. Stevenson resumed his distinguished career, serving both King George and the Queen in the honorary role of aide-de-camp, assisting them at military events.
Air Commodore Stevenson, commanding the static display, escorts Her Majesty.
So yeah, pilot for King George, bit of a helping hand for the Queen, eh? Wasn't playing at it, was he? He wasn't playing at it.
Then in 1954, Stevenson was selected as a crack pilot to test the supersonic Sabre jet fighter in the USA. But having survived dogfights, a crash landing, and being a prisoner of war, this peacetime project was to be his final mission. An early design fault led to him losing control and crashing before it was possible to eject. Jeffrey Stevenson died aged 44, leaving 2 daughters, Varian and Victoria.
He was the boy. He was the boy, yeah. So he's saying, well, whatever we do here, we've got to do the job right, haven't we?
It's 2 years and 2 weeks since Guy first started work on N3200. He's about to see if she'll fly. If everything goes well, she'll be granted a permit to fly and be one of just 4 airworthy Mark 1s in existence.
She's looking a treat. She's looking a treat.
To add to the occasion, Guy has invited along some rather illustrious guests related to the plane's pilot, Jeffrey Stevenson.
Jeffrey's daughters, both of Jeffrey's daughters, Vay and Victoria. You all right, ladies?
Hello. Morning.
Pleased to meet you, ladies. Pleased to meet you.
Victoria was 7 when her celebrated father died, while younger sister Varian was just 5.
Our father was very kind but strict person, and it's a great shame he died so soon.
We've never really sat around and talked about my father. So to be here with Tor, you know, and remember, you know, Daddy, and experience this together, that's why it's special for me.
Right, ladies.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
Okay.
There's a lot of planes. It's the one there.
Okay. Well,
Here, lads. Yeah. Open the door, please. Cheers, mate. Right.
Wow. Beautiful. Ooh. Gorgeous.
there was a plane that, you know, it was part of his life that he sat in and flew all those years ago, and it just looked, I don't know, friendly.
Can you have a look?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just as a mate one should.
I thought, what a beautiful plane. Not big, and of course, looking spiff, it was, yeah, great.
And just look at it, there was a picture of the plane on Dunkirk beach, right, and you could see from there that there was this rear view mirror there. You see that mirror on the back there? That's not a standard thing on a Spitfire, but they say your dad had this idea, he wanted a rear view mirror, so that was nicked off an MG car. And they could see from this picture, there was a German stood on it, like proud as punch. And that's where they replicated that, so that's not on any other. That was just on this, just on your dad's.
I don't know, I can almost feel him here at the moment, actually. I can almost, I mean, he just would have, just loved getting in there.
Seeing all this, and seeing the Spitfire, and seeing Tor in the Spitfire particularly.
Like father, like daughter, eh?
I mean, Tor has the same sort of colouring as Daddy, has the same bone structure, obviously a little bit smaller.
How do you start it? Is there a key?
It's brought it all home, and I don't know, it's well, you know, I was so young when my father was no more. And now doing this, I feel like, you know, I know a lot more about who he was and what his passions were, and aeroplanes, which was a major part of his life, aeroplanes.
It's remarkable. Absolutely.
You're happy?
I'm happy. And I'm sitting in it right now.
Sitting in your dad's plane.
When this plane left Duxford in 1940, it never came back. Now it's time to see if she can return safely to the skies. The honour of flying Squadron Leader Geoffrey Stevenson's newly built Spitfire in front of his daughters, Victoria and Varian, goes to John Romaine. He's one of the most experienced Spitfire pilots in the world.
There's an American pilot, and one day he flew a Spitfire, and somebody said to him, "What's the big difference?" And he said, "The big difference is that you get into an American fighter, but you put a Spitfire on."
It's all too good to be true, really. It's great, isn't it?
The starting procedure is the same today as it was when N3200 made its last flight in 1940. The stick is pulled back so the plane won't nose over upon starting. The gas primer is pulled to warm the engine. Both tanks are checked for fuel. A small amount of throttle is applied. The ignition switches are flicked.
Right, I reckon this is it. I heard the word.
And the starter button is pressed.
I'm not an emotional person. To get an emotional response out of me would take a fair bit of doing, really. But what got it for me was, just to hear the Merlin ticking over and the plane shuddering, I genuinely got a shiver down the spine.
Spitfire Golf Juliet, runway 24 grass. Take off at your discretion. Surface wind estimated 260 degrees, 15 knots, and good luck.
And so after a 2-year build, on the very same runway it last flew from 74 years ago, they're about to see if this Spitfire can fly again. The canopy is left open to make an escape easier should anything go wrong.
It's just all a bit magical.
That's your dad's plane, eh?
A little tinge of sadness too, I suppose.
Wearing its original Duxford Squadron marking of QV, Geoffrey Stevenson's plane is responding perfectly.
All this effort is just remarkable. And I'm so glad that it's been focused on my father.
Look at that! Yeah, look at the speed!
Oh,
God, it's like silk, isn't it? That is something. He would have just been overjoyed to think that it's up and flying again. That would be... Yeah. It'll take a while to sink in, I think.
Bit quiet.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, really. It's amazing that they've done that. These folks put it all together again.
I've got goosebumps now.
When he got out of that aeroplane, it was sort of very moving. Thank you so much.
Go on, yeah. Pleasure.
Yeah. He looks like my father did, and it's like, oh, this came out all right, you know.
Thank
How
you
was
very
that?
much. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much indeed.
What was it like?
Lovely. One of the best they've ever built, I think.
You can see, did it?
Spot on, mate. Spot on, mate.
That was good. Yeah. I just think it's lovely seeing it fly after all your involvement with it.
My bit of involvement, just the amount of time and effort your boys have put into this.
Yeah. And actually it is, I think, one of the best they've ever built. It's absolutely stunning.
So is it going to get a certificate to fly?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant job. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
There's 3 bits in it, really. You know, that's like a tribute to Jeffrey Stevenson, so I think that's great. Number 2, we have restored a Mach 1 Spitfire to perfect condition. Where do we go from there? That is it. And then the 3rd one, the job satisfaction. What a set of lads. None of those boys are dragging the heels to work.
It's the boyhood dream to work on something like this.
Such an iconic aircraft as well, you know. Working on it, you couldn't get anything better, could you?
N3200 to me is my favourite of all time. It's just a beautiful looking aircraft. We're all normal guys doing what we enjoy doing, but at the end of the day we've been given the task to make a Mach 1 Spitfire the best we can, and I think it's turned out pretty good.
It's been emotional, it's been emotional, it's been emotional. All of it.
A new series and a brand new direction. Carrie Matheson is in charge in Afghanistan as a mission takes a fatal turn. New Homeland on the way.